This is Rita Barrett from Harleysville, Pennsylvania. You're listening to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal.
Welcome, everyone, to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. It is Sunday, October the 15th. We thank you for tuning in to our show. My name's Sheldon. Jill is with me as usual. We have 30 minutes of news and information, things going on in the world of radio for you, as we do every week. You can email us, radioreport@yahoo.com. We're live streaming, archived at ckut.ca. Our Facebook group, one new member this week. We welcome Stuart in Ohio. We're at 945 members, working towards that 1,000 mark. That'll be our next target, I guess. If you want to catch the show at your leisure, whatever it's convenient for you, go to our YouTube channel at IRR, and you can subscribe there as well. 885 subscribers. The current show and previous shows there that you can listen to as well. Our X account is still not attracting a lot of attention. We got one new member this week, follower, so we're up to 28 there. We're at IRRCKUT if you want to check out the X account. So, on to some interesting stories this week. Quite a bit going on out there in the world of radio. Gilles, you've been doing some research and finding out some interesting things about a local radio station here in the Montreal region.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of a station that is actually in Longueuil, which is a community radio station. And it's a station that is a CHAA. It's on 103.3 FM. They call themselves FM 103.3, la radio allumée. They actually cover, for the most part, and that's their main focus, Longueuil, which includes Brossard, Saint-Hubert, and Greenfield Park. They are really focusing on a community-type radio, francophone music for the most part, and they have different shows. One of the shows that I listen to is a show on Friday evening, which is an 80s show, Flashback 80. But they have all sorts of different shows, and they are celebrating 35 years on the air, which makes me think that it's not that far from CKUT, actually, when you think of the age of the stations. The station, when it started, had 50 watts of power only. They actually were having a hard time getting some attention. They struggled for many years. So what happened is that on November 15, 1987, there was a schedule that was put out, and they had 168 hours of shows, and 126 hours of them were live. And so they started doing their programming. After 10 years, they had a lot of difficulty. They didn't know where to go. And there's somebody called Eric Tétrault that took the direction of the station and tried to push it in a different way with somebody else called France Dubé. And they actually changed the station around and really made it what it is today. And it is a much more powerful voice. It is a station that a lot of people in the South Shore know about, and they've changed everything. As they're saying, their station sounds maybe a little more like a standard commercial station that we'll hear on the FM band, but with a lot of local flavor on their programming for the community of Longueuil. They also have an HD, entirely Anglo station called Coyote New Country. And so they have, of course, an HD signal. Their antenna is now located on the CBC Tower on the Mont Royal. And of course, they have put out also a book that talks about the 35 years of the station, has different information on all the shows that are on there, which comes to an interesting little tidbit. We talked about it, me and Sheldon, for a while, about regulations regarding HD radio, because we started seeing odd things. It just indicated that HD radio itself seemed to be a different thing. It didn't have the rules that the CRTC has for the standard radio. And when we saw this story, we also saw that Coyote New Country is Anglophone on a station that is Francophone, which has to obey by a certain amount of rules of how much Francophone music is played and all of what's on the air. So we got the question of, so there's no rules. And then I started searching a little bit more. I got regulation of a Toronto station that was actually sued by other stations because they were saying, hey, on your HD signals, you have all of these languages. It's not fair. The competition's not right. What's happening with that? Well, HD radio, being a trademark name for the proprietary digital radio technology in North America based on a hybrid method of transmitting both analog and digital radio signals, in-band, on-channel digital radio broadcasting standard, developed by Ubiquity and is now owned by Xperi. HD radio technology allows a station to simulcast its analog signal on its first adjacent digital subchannel and up to 3 additional digital subchannels without impacting spectrum availability, and offers improved sound quality, can be used for broadcasting digital on-screen information such as images, ads, song information, traffic, and weather updates. It is broadcasting Regulatory Policy 2014-454, which says the Commission determined that HD radio could be implemented on experimental basis as it was still in its initial stage of development in Canada. But since then, broadcasters have used their digital sidebands to rebroadcast content from their other stations and their other additional ethnic or specialty programming. There are currently 28 FM HD radio stations and 1 AM HD radio station operating in Canada. The Department of Industry is currently reviewing its BPR3 application procedures and rules for FM broadcasting undertakings. So, there's no rules. You put your main station on the air, follow the rules, and put all the HD stations you want outside of that, and do what you want, how you want. It doesn't matter.
In seemingly in whatever language you want as well.
Yep.
You mentioned the ones in Toronto, and the interventions that came against this station activating its HD channel with these ethnic programs was from other ethnic broadcasters in Toronto who didn't have HD. So suddenly, they had programs in certain languages for those communities in Toronto, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this other station starts broadcasting programming in those same languages. So they said this unfair competition. But A, we don't know how many people had HD radios to begin with, or even know what it was. And then the situation, as you outlined here in Montreal, with just outside of Montreal, the station, a French language station, which has very strict regulations of French content, suddenly having a subchannel, an HD channel, that's all in English and promoting it as such. So we really have been wondering that for quite some time as to how they're allowed to do this. So what you were reading from, in fact, is the actual Broadcasting Act in Canada. I mean, if you put it in plain English, it's kind of like, we really kind of haven't had time to look at this yet. Yeah. So, in the meantime, you can just kind of do whatever you want. It's almost experimental. And there, like you said, there doesn't seem to be any regulation. So we've finally got the answer as to why CHAA is allowed to have an English programming subchannel on HD when it's a French language licensed radio station. Yeah. So I wonder how many radio stations even know this.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, if I'd be a radio station and I hear this today, it's like, hey, how about, do we have HD? Can we turn on HD on our antenna?
What can we put on there?
We're going to have a lot of stuff. I'd like, one station I'd like to see how they could go is Chom FM.
Yeah.
Hey, turn on HD, Chom. Bring back that bilingual stuff from the 80s.
Exactly. That was so popular too. But then, if we may be breaking through here and letting people know about this. I don't know how many people in Montreal radio industry listen to our show. We know some do. Maybe they don't know anything about this.
Yeah.
Maybe we're sort of spilling the beans here, and this could open up some discussions out there as to, hey guys, let's look at what we could be doing here.
Yep,
But I think
definitely.
at the end of the day, though, it still comes down to how many people know anything about
Yeah.
HD radio? How many people know where you could go buy an HD radio?
Yeah.
It's just not anything that's really been publicized very much.
Honestly, I found out about CHAA by accident while testing my new HD radio.
I know TSN Sports Radio in Montreal, they do mention that they're on another station's HD channel, but they do mention it from time to time. But most of the others, I've not heard them. If you do some DXing from here from Montreal, we hear like WCBS talks about their HD channel.
Yeah.
But again, do they explain it? We've talked about it on the show that maybe the people who do get exposed to HD first are new car owners.
Yeah.
Some of the new cars have an HD radio, but it would be interesting to get hold of the manual and see if they explain in the manual to the new car owner, what is this new thing you have in your car and how does it work? And, it's kind of just something that's there, and those who know, and those who don't even know they're missing something.
And there's so many things that are making it complex. First, the most complicated way of explaining it is, CJ80 is in HD. Yeah, but you got to go to the FM band and go on 107.3 to get it.
And switch to the HD channel.
That isn't very clear. And even if, CHAA is the clearest you can be. It's on their main frequency. So you got the main station on HD, but who knows that you got to press that button to go to HD 2, 3, 4 to get the other stuff, because that's the other thing you need to know.
Well, maybe you've learned something today. Maybe some stations, if anybody out there from a station is listening to us, maybe go check your transmitter. You might have something there that you don't know you have. You never know.
Yeah, and let's take the time to say, hey, let's hope another 35 years to CHA 8 or 103.3.
Exactly. Something that's going away on radio is stirring up a lot of reaction and emotion from people here in Canada. We got this story from a lot of different sources. Mickey Delmage, a regular guest here on the show, sent it in to us, and a few other people. It comes from CBC News. Dan Takima is the reporter. The end of the long dash. CBC stops broadcasting the official time signal. For more than 80 years, the beeps and tones of the National Research Council time signal have connected Canadians at exactly 1 p.m. Eastern Time. But as of Monday, CBC radio audiences won't be listening for the beginning of the long dash, as they always announce on the broadcast. They'll have listened to the end of it. Variations of the daily message and the pips that sound along with it have played over CBC's airwaves since November 5th, 1939, forming a link that connects Canadians from coast to coast to coast. CBC and Radio Canada have announced that they'll no longer carry the National Research Council time signal. Monday marked the last time it was broadcast, ending the longest running segment on CBC radio. CBC declined an interview and would only provide written responses to questions about the change. In a statement, spokesperson Emma Iannetta described the signal as a wonderful partnership, but confirmed it's being dropped. Given the range of CBC platforms from traditional over-the-air radio to satellite and the internet, the long dash undergoes a range of delays by the time it's heard, leading to accuracy concerns from the NRC, she wrote. Iannetta added that nowadays most people use their phones to get the time, though many CBC listeners have a fondness for the signal. We share the nostalgia that many people have towards the daily time announcements, but Canadians also depend on us for accurate information, she wrote. With all of the different distribution methods we use today, we can no longer ensure that the time announcements can be accurate. For many, the relationship with the time signal goes far beyond fondness. It allowed sailors to set their instruments for navigation, It kept railway companies running on time and helped Canadians stay punctual. In a 2019 interview with Day 6 on the occasion of the Signal's 80th birthday, Lawrence Wall, one of its current voices, reflected on its origin and its importance. I used to hear this thing all the time at
all
1
the time.
o'clock, and that little bit of silence. You're never supposed to hear silence on a radio station. Well, they'd silence for just a second, and then those beeps would come in, and then the long beep indicating 1 p.m. So, anyways, it's kind of sad, something that's been around that long, and the accuracy problem, though, is something that is true. So it's not really live anymore, almost. So therefore, not really accurate.
So in our next story, Gottheimer rallies 75% of votes needed for AM radio in-house. This is via Radio Inc. 1 month after reconvening for fall, strong momentum remains in Congress for the AM for Every Vehicle Act. This week, the act passed an important benchmark in the House of Representatives with support for H.R. 3413 critically near 75% of the votes it needs to pass. The House version, introduced by Representative Josh Gottheimer, DNJ5, has steadily gained co-sponsors over the past 5 months. This week saw Representatives Mike Ezel, Chrissy Ulahan, and Chris Pappas raise their voices in support of mandating AM radios placed in the auto dashboard. With 160 now in favor, that puts the act in striking distance for a 218-vote simple majority in the House. The Senate version, introduced by Senators Ed Markey and Ted Cruz, holds steady at 34 total co-sponsors, 2/3 of the 51 total votes needed to pass the act. The bill is currently sitting on the floor after being placed on the Senate legislative calendar under general orders. The legislative calendar still provides plenty of time for the AM for Every Vehicle Act to have its shot at passing before the end of the year. For the next week, Congress will adjourn for a state work period. From October 16 until Thanksgiving week will be the most likely spot for a potential vote, with a more narrow window open from November 27th to December 15th. On the auto industry side, Ford and GM were among the top lobbying spenders in the second quarter, with reported activity in the radio broadcast sector. With the third quarter lobbying disclosures due on the 20th of October, or before, broadcasters should have a clear idea of what kind of pressure automakers are putting on lawmakers headed into the last 3 months of 2023. So, it's getting there. It's being pushed. It still doesn't have all the push needed to pass, but it's not that far. So I guess that with more talks, more time to think about it, it might actually end up passing, and that would be a good thing.
Yep, it's very close, and maybe we'll have the news by the end of the year if all things go. Although there's a bit of disruption going on in the U.S. government system right now with the Speaker of the House and all this stuff, so some things may get delayed again. But as you said, it's close, so we'll keep a watch on that.
So what's happening with our sun? The sun this week, although, solar activity is high, there's a lot of sunspots and everything, we didn't have that much disruption in solar activity, which meant that this week, almost every night, almost every day I listened to, propagation was amazing. I've been making contacts on 20 meters close to midnight with stations almost anywhere in the world. It's just amazing what we're getting. I heard Radio New Zealand 17675 at this time of the year. It shows you that, the high solar activity is really creating some amazing times for radio listening. So there's sunspot AR 3460 and 3464. That could actually play a little trick this week with some solar activity, solar flares, and that means disruption in signals and possible geomagnetic unrest, but for the time being, things are amazing in conditions. Sunspot number 126, solar flux 157, and well, there's no coronal holes, and that means that, you know what, if conditions continue like they are, you need to turn on a radio and listen.
This is Margie Barrett of Lansdale, Pennsylvania, listening to the International Radio Report every Sunday morning at 10:30 on TKUT 90.3 FM Montreal.
We head next to an interesting story from Ukraine. Irina Wojciak is the reporter, Euromaidan Press, and we thank Walt Salmonu through Glenn Hauser's World Radio for posting this story. Ukraine's digital transformation minister, Mikhailo Fedorov, announced that Ukrainian developers have created a radio called Himera that can operate despite Russian electronic warfare jamming. According to Fedorov, this unique technology can work despite Russian electronic warfare systems. The Russians cannot block or decrypt its signals. The radio can hold a charge for up to 4 days. The radio can also be integrated into a situational awareness system or used as a GPS beacon for finding and evacuating soldiers. A smartphone app can control the entire radio system. Fedorov said Himera was named the best defense tech startup at IT Arena 2023 and received $10,000 to scale up product development. The radio was first presented at the In Science Conference 2023 in Kyiv in June. According to Army Inform, this radio boasts a robust 256-bit advanced encryption standard encryption. It employs frequency hopping spread spectrum technology to thwart electronic warfare efforts, making it nearly impossible to detect. The HFSS technology enables the radio to constantly switch frequencies, rendering it extremely challenging for adversaries to target. In stark contrast, conventional radios with a 5-watt output can be disrupted by enemy electronic warfare equipment, generating just 100 watts. The Himera G1 leverages a broadcast frequency range, ensuring that even if an adversary deploys more than 1 kilowatt of power, the interference level remains barely perceptible, allowing for effective radio communication. Furthermore, Himera's radio's low radiation power makes it exceptionally difficult for Russian forces to detect its signals using electronic reconnaissance systems. Its normal power output is several times less than a typical radio, making it nearly impervious to detection unless the adversary is close. One of the standard features of the Himera G1 is its impressive battery life, lasting up to 4 days in a 10% transmit and 90% standby mode. It charges through the widely adopted Type-C connector. It can be used with standard 3.5 millimeter headphones or modified for military headsets with a push-to-talk button requiring minimal adjustments. Securing these radio devices also involves knowing the user's password, entered directly within the unit, adding an extra layer of protection. These radios are assembled in Ukraine, primarily using Ukrainian components, making them an affordable option at approximately $110. Ukrainian Defense Forces have already started deploying these radios at the front lines. Even the engineers behind Himera G1 find it challenging to locate these radios in operation, giving their vast array of over 65,000 hopping channels. This is significant, considering Russian forces possess some of the world's most advanced electronic warfare systems, causing major disruption to Ukrainian military operations. These systems, such as the Zoopark radar, jamming devices, and satellite communication disruptors, enable the detection and interception of mobile phones and radios, making secure communications challenging. For lack of any other safe means of communication, Ukrainian units use older field phones with rotary dials, ensuring communication between trenches through underground cables, making it impossible for Russian electronic warfare to intercept or eavesdrop on their conversations.
Yeah, this is what computers and radio together can do today in new technologies. I the analogy I will give it was with FT8. I've noticed a lot of grumpy hams trying to jam FT8 frequencies sometimes, and it just doesn't work. Our FT8 signals just in the context continue on like there's nothing there. And that's what new technologies are all about, improving the systems and so on. It's sad that it takes a war for that to happen, but technology moves ahead, and radio technology is going to be always trying to be better than the enemy, basically.
This gives you an indication that it must have been developed fairly quickly too.
Yep.
So the technology is out there, the know-how is out there, and when the need arises, they were able to come up with something. So hopefully it's something, I'm sure it'll be copied, and other places and people will be using it for different services for sure.
When I say you got to turn on a radio and listen, well, you better turn it on this week, because Wolferton Transmitting Station in the UK is celebrating 80 years. So this is going to happen with a special transmission on October 17th. To mark this anniversary, Encompass Digital Media at the Wolferton Transmitter site will be running a special program on HF. Tuesday, 17th of October, 2023, from 13:30 to 14:30 UTC, they will be using the 95 Marconi BD272 from 1963, 250 kilowatt AM 15245 kilohertz array. They'll be sending it for North America at 294 degrees. Then there's the Sender 96 RIS 250 kilowatt AMC, which is 17785 kilohertz. That will be the frequency. And that will be broadcast at 114 degrees for Europe and beyond. And then there's the Sender 92 RIS 110 kilowatts DRM signal that will be sent 11725 kilohertz at 114 degrees also for Europe and beyond. There will be an opening interval signal on all three frequencies. The program content will be historical facts of Wolferton in BBC, Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, CBC, etc. The later privatized Times, Deutsche Welle, and Voice of Vietnam, for example, as well as up-to-date information on DRM, as well as personal recollections from many former Wolferton staff. There will be station identifications of services over the years, and there's a special QSL card. It's an eQSL card, and the chance to enter a competition to win a historic station artifact and a Wolferton 80th anniversary mug. I'm going to be there listening, that's for sure. It's going to be interesting to see what they have to say. And don't forget, so in North America, 13:30, 14:30, 15245, Europe and beyond on 17785, and a DRM broadcast 11725.
All right, a good target. We always like these special broadcasts like that are a once in a lifetime sort of thing. So be there to check it out.
So there's upcoming ham radio contests.
We have a 1010 International Fall Contest, CW, 0001, October 21st to 2359 Zulu, October 22nd. That's organized by 1010 International Net, 10 meters only, CW only.
There's the New York QSO Party, 1400 Zulu, October 21st to 0200 Zulu, October 22nd, organized by the New York QSO Party Committee. All amateur bands, excluding the WARC bands, and all modes are permitted.
And finally, the WARC All Germany contest. That's organized by the Deutscher Amateur Radio Club. That is taking place 1500 Zulu, October 21st to 1459 Zulu, October 22nd. It's both CW and SSB, 3.57, 14, 21, and 28 megahertz bands. Be back on the air with you again next Sunday morning, 10:30 Eastern, and 1430 UTC here on CKUT 90.3 FM with the International Radio Report. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye.